Rain poured like broken glass from the heavens that night, slicing through the city's neon lights and washing away the sins of another long day. Daniel Brooks tightened his grip on the steering wheel of his cab, the worn leather pressing into his calloused palms. The heater barely worked, and his windshield wiper squeaked with every tired sweep. But it didn't matter. He had one more ride to take before heading home to his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who was probably asleep clutching her stuffed bear, waiting for her daddy to bring breakfast in the morning. Life hadn't been kind to Daniel. He was a former Marine who came back home to a wife who couldn't handle the man the war had made him. She left, and all that remained was Lily and the sound of his own breathing in an empty apartment. Since then, every mile he drove was for her, every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, every dollar. He didn't dream of riches, he dreamed of stability, of peace. The last ride of the night popped up on his phone, a pickup at a downtown hotel. A luxury suites, it read. Daniel exhaled, glancing at his nearly empty gas tank. One more, he muttered, tapping accept. When he pulled up to the hotel entrance, the rain had turned into a steady mist, soft and cold. That's when she stepped out. Tall, wrapped in a long black coat, her hair gleaming like midnight silk under the streetlight. Her heels clicked sharply on the pavement as she rushed toward his cab, one hand shielding her face. She opened the door, climbed in, and whispered, "Please drive." Her voice trembled, not from cold but from fear. Daniel glanced in the rear-view mirror. Her eyes were wide, darting between the window and the street behind them. "You okay, miss?" he asked gently. "Just drive," she said again, almost pleading this time. Anywhere but here. There was something in her tone, desperation, maybe pain. Daniel didn't ask again. He hit the gas, merging into the wet streets, watching as she pulled out her phone and tried calling someone. It went straight to voicemail. She cursed under her breath. "You in trouble?" Daniel asked finally. She hesitated, then met his eyes through the mirror. "You could say that," she whispered. "I think someone's trying to kill me." Daniel's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" She looked out the window, voice low. "I'm Cassandra Hale. My father owns Hale Industries, the construction and tech conglomerate. I was supposed to take over next month, but some people, they don't want that. There's been threats. I thought they were just words. Until tonight." Daniel didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure if she was delusional or in real danger. But something about her eyes, the raw terror in them, told him this was no drama out of thin air. He checked the mirror again and froze. 2 black SUVs were behind them. No headlights, just silent silhouettes cutting through the mist. "Hold on," he said, tightening his jaw. "You got company." Cassandra turned and gasped. "That's them." Without thinking, Daniel's instincts took over. Years in the Marines, training in evasion and quick thinking all came rushing back. He took a sharp right, tires screeching on wet asphalt, then cut through an alley. "Who are they?" he shouted over the pounding rain. "A people from my father's company, hired men. They want me gone before I expose a fraud deal," she said, clutching the seat. "Oh, they think I'm too dangerous alive." Daniel's heart thudded in his chest. "Not tonight," he muttered, swerving left onto a deserted back road. The SUVs followed, headlights now blinding. Cassandra screamed as one car rammed the back of the cab. Metal shrieked. Daniel gritted his teeth, gripping the wheel tighter. "Hold on." He cut through a side street, sliding into an underground parking lot near the docks. "Out," he said, jumping out first. Cassandra hesitated but followed as he led her through the maze of concrete pillars. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her breath visible in the cold air. He looked back, eyes steady. "Because my daughter's home waiting for me, and I'd like her to grow up in a world where someone helps when it counts." Before she could respond, footsteps echoed, heavy, deliberate. The men had found them. "Stay behind me," Daniel whispered. He picked up a broken metal rod from the ground. Not much, but better than nothing. They cornered them near an exit ramp. One of the men smirked. "Hand her over, driver. You don't want to die for someone you just met." Daniel's jaw clenched. You'd be surprised what a Marine would die for. The man lunged, gun raised, but Daniel moved faster. He shoved the rod against the man's wrist, the weapon clattering to the floor. The other man aimed his gun, and Cassandra screamed. In that split second, Daniel did the only thing he could think of. He grabbed Cassandra and kissed her, pulling her down behind a concrete block. The bullet flew overhead, missing them by inches. Her breath hitched, her lips frozen against his. Not out of romance, but survival. The sudden move had thrown the shooter's aim off just enough. He looked into her eyes, whispering, "Stay down." Seconds later, sirens wailed in the distance. The men cursed, retreating before the police arrived. Cassandra trembled, realizing what he'd done. That impulsive, selfless act that had probably saved her life. When the officers arrived, Cassandra told them everything. The threats, the chase, the men, and how Daniel had risked everything to protect her. They were taken to the station for questioning, and by morning her father arrived, gray-haired, stern, powerful. He shook Daniel's hand firmly, gratitude hidden behind his corporate composure. "You saved my daughter's life," he said. "Whatever you need, it's yours." Daniel simply shook his head. "I just doing what anyone should," but Cassandra wasn't done with him. Over the next few days, she visited his small apartment, where Lily greeted her with her toothless smile and a paint-stained dress. Cassandra sat on their worn couch, looking around the humble space with a kind of awe. "You risked everything for me," she said softly. "You didn't even know who I was." Daniel smiled faintly. "Didn't matter. You were scared. That was enough." She stared at him. The man who had nothing, yet gave everything. And somewhere in that quiet, something shifted inside her. For years, she'd lived in penthouses and boardrooms, surrounded by people who cared more for her last name than her soul. But Daniel, he was different. Weeks later, after the arrests were made and her life returned to normal, Cassandra did something no one expected. She left Hale Industries and started a foundation for single parents in honor of the man who showed her what real strength looked like. She called it the Lily Foundation. Daniel didn't know until the news broke on television one morning. He stood there in his kitchen, coffee in hand, watching Cassandra, now radiant and smiling, tell the world about a man who saved me not because he had to, but because his heart wouldn't let him turn away. Months later, she came to see him again. This time, not as a billionaire heiress, but as a woman who had learned what truly mattered. "I never got to thank you properly," she said, handing him a small envelope. Inside was a deed, a new home, fully paid, with a backyard and a swing set for Lily. Daniel was speechless. "I can't accept this." "You already have," Cassandra said, smiling softly. "You gave me back my life. This is just me giving you a place to live it." He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in years, the walls around his heart began to crumble. The rain had started again, tapping gently against the windows, just like that first night. Daniel stepped forward, eyes locked on hers, and whispered, "You didn't need to buy me a house to say thank you." "I know," she replied. "But maybe it's a start." And for the first time since war loss and pain had hollowed him out, Daniel allowed himself to hope. Not for riches, not for miracles, but for something far simpler. Human connection. The kind that begins with a single act of selflessness and ends with two hearts finally finding shelter in each other.